Rahul Shah, Associate VP, Group Leader, Equity Advisory Group at Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Rahul, the other set of stocks which will likely be in focus are the consumption names. Godrej Consumer, extremely strong in terms of updates. Late teens growth, very unexpected. The other one also was Dabur. Again, well ahead. Double-digit growth, I mean, off a low base. Last year was a tough quarter for them, Q1 FY26. How are you reading into some of the consumption trends? They seem to be holding up beautifully.
Hi, good morning. I think, as you rightly pointed out, I think a lot of names have been trading, just momentum is just getting back into it. If you look at it, the most of the names, I think, Godrej Consumer, strong setup. I think that's what is reflecting in the price, and I think we saw some momentum building up in the stock as well. I look at Marico's. In fact, Marico's quarterly update was also very strong coming a bit to it. So I think most of the consumption names, if you look at, I think they're trading below their 10-year P averages. I think a steep discount, at least 15 to 20% in a lot of names. And if we look at it in last 2-3 years, I think nothing has happened in terms of the returns of the most of the consumption names. So I think domestic macro looks interesting. I think does not look any challenges to come back into near term. And I feel that, the names like Godrej remains a top bet. Marico remains a top bet. Dabur could be a dark horse. So I think the entire basket, if I look at it, I think most of the people on the streets have just left consumer and with a very minimum allocation in their portfolio. So we could see some kind of momentum picking up into the entire sector and some weightage coming back into their portfolios.
Rahul, how do you look at the earnings for the first quarter? I mean, going into the earnings, we were of the opinion that because of the West Asia crisis, there might be an impact on top line and the bottom line. It seems that from the updates which are coming in, the earnings are going to be good, at least double digit, which is for FMCG companies, though there may be some margin pressure coming in.
Rahul? I think, as you rightly pointed out, I think, hello. So I think, as you rightly pointed out, I think we have seen that I think a lot of names, the earnings might get impacted, but I think that's what is discounted in the market as well. So I don't see that it's going to be the clear trend unless there's the change in the commentary by the management. There could be some kind of impacts which might come into specific companies. So I think sector specific, I don't think so. I think financials, I think in banks and NBFCs, we are seeing a strong momentum building it up. Consumer names, again, building it up with a strong momentum. The only questions, a lot of noise and IT, but IT, I think, is discounted in the market. So I think more or less, I don't see any major, earning disruptions coming up in this quarter. And I think more, if it is, then I think most of them have been discounted by the markets in the large cap names at least.
Right, okay. Well, the one key factor has been the monsoon. It's been a completely rained out Mumbai through this weekend, and that was the case last week as well. We're not complaining considering it's been such a delayed onset this time around. But first, let's take a ground check on what really is happening with the severe waterlogging across many parts of the city right now. We've got a reporter joining in with that update.
Indian Meteorological Department had issued a red warning for Mumbai, Palghar, Raigad and Thane, and continuously it's been raining in Mumbai and the city nearby part of Mumbai since last night. It's been more than 18 hours it's been raining continuously, and if you can see in the visuals that it's been waterlogged at many parts of Mumbai and its neighboring city. We are at right now Bothra, Madhuban township, where you can see the exact situation, what has happened. There is a waterlogging, and I am standing right at Madhuban township, and you can see how bad waterlogging happening is over here. Every year this type of situation occurs, but there is no step which has been taken by the municipality or the BBMC in this entire case.
Right, okay. Let's take it across, and we've got a spokesperson from IMD joining in to try and understand whether or not things would stabilize at all. We've got OP Srijit from the IMD joining in on the show right now. Mr. Srijit, great to have you today on ET Now. Thank you so much for your time. Delayed monsoon, and just look at what's happening in the last 5 days. Tell us whether the intensity is going to reduce at all, especially in Mumbai MMR.
Rain will continue for today also, because good rainfall, because that low depression is formed over the Bay of Bengal. That is the main cause for the very good rainfall this time. From last June, we got large deficiency in rainfall. But however, as we indicated in the first 2 weeks of July, we are going to get very good rainfall. This will the rain will continue for 2 more days, actually, at least.
Srijit, how do you look at the kind of, beyond Mumbai? How do you look at the spread of monsoon? Is it going to all the areas required? And what about the reservoir levels at this point in time?
Actually, in June, we got 38% deficiency in rain percentage temperature-wise in all India. Then, however, in July, we till date, up to 5th, we got 24% above normal. So, overall, now deficiency is reduced to minus 24% for this season. And most of the country, we received a very good rainfall, especially in the central and the northern part during this low pressure system, and intensified into depressions. Now, the only monsoon cover most of the places except that Rajasthan, only the Rajasthan and a small portion in Gujarat also. But that may cover today in Gujarat, some region, and overall that monsoon rainfall received most of the region now.
Srijit, how do you look at the area under sowing? Has it improved compared to your June 26 update?
Yes, it is improved. Now we got a very good rainfall over even UP, Madhya Pradesh, and other Bihar and other region also. Most of the region we got very good rainfall. So that large deficiency was covered and delayed. As I mentioned last time, there is a chance for getting very good rainfall in the first 2 weeks of July. That we have to utilize for the remaining period also. We have to, after this, there is a chance for get less rainfall. Because July, we are indicated that below normal only. But we got very good low pressure system, and we got very good rainfall also in first 10 days of July.
Srijit, therefore, do you believe that largely we're going to bridge the gap with regard to rainfall? June was obviously extremely short. July, we've seen a very, very decent kind of catch-up. Do you believe for the full monsoon, we'll be closer to 95, or do you still believe that we'll be short?
Still, it will be short, because El Nino situation also, it is intensified. And another thing is that after 2 days, there is a system in, say, West Pacific that also intensifying, and that is moving in the northward direction. That will adversely impact that monsoon rainfall over Indian region in the after 3 days.
And Srijit, in terms of Kharif and in terms of agriculture, what do you expect the impact to be? Because what's happened is we've had a June which was very weak in terms of rainfall, and July which has been very, very strong.
Yes.
How will this likely impact agri output and things on ground?
Actually, in July, because of delayed monsoon and the less rainfall, we could not do much sowing also many region. Now we have to, as we suggested, to use that short variety of crop and reduce water resilient the crop we have to use. So then we can manage some extent for the less rainfall in the season.
Thank you so much, Srijit, for coming in and speaking to us, giving us that perspective. That's the perspective coming in from IMD. Important to take stock of that. There's plenty playing out with regard to the weather as well. Let me go across to Rahul once again. Rahul, while demand trends seem to be holding up in the consumption basket, the other set of stocks will be the platform companies of sorts, which is like the Nykaa and the like. Again, the update was extremely strong, and this is for viewer context as well. 30% plus is the kind of growth that Nykaa has posted. The expectation was on GMV to be in around the 25 to 27% kind of band. So it's much stronger, much ahead of what the street was penciling in. Rahul, how do you look at the update, Nykaa in particular?
I think the platform companies, I think we've seen the trend. I think last 2 years, I think most of the platform companies have done well. So if you look at the food delivery or if you look at platform stocks like Nykaa, if you look at, I think almost in last year and a half, investors have got a decent returns. Especially in case of Nykaa, I think the quarterly updates were quite strong, and I think we might see some kind of momentum again. But I think looks like a limited upside, I think from 10-12%, maybe the better case in near term in a Nykaa post this thing. So I think factored in the prices, most of it. So I think I would prefer the food delivery app more than this Nykaa or something. So I think Nykaa more or less everything is factored in at the current valuations.
Right. The other space in focus is also going to be Adani Enterprises. Given that Adani Defence is now looking to invest that sizable 2,500 crore rupee in the private sector missile ecosystem in Madhya Pradesh. So that's one stock definitely which is going to be on our radar. And then, of course, Vedanta Aluminium, very solid updates coming in there. While it's been a mixed quarterly production update coming in from Vedanta, the India zinc business production has seen a marginal uptick on a year-on-year basis. For Vedanta Aluminum, though, it's been the highest ever quarterly aluminum production, an uptick of about almost 5% that they've seen on a year-on-year basis. And Kunal, we saw metals as well pretty charged up, and that was the case Friday, particularly when you had the likes of a Nalco, Hindalco, Tata Steel. The entire space was looking strong. Any tradable opportunity here?
Yeah, I think we are at a point where names like Hindalco is something which looks attractive from the current juncture. The stock has gone through almost like a 20% correction from 1100, 1180 mark. The stock has corrected back towards 900, 950 levels. So after this 20% odd correction, it's come back towards its 200 moving average. That's one stock which I would believe you could probably see a good bounce back going forward. Tata Steel, that stock has also gone through like a 10-12% correction from its recent swing highs. Just around that 190 mark is where the stock seems to have stabilized. Even at this 190 mark, the trade looks very attractive. SAIL apparently has been doing very well for itself for the fag end of 2025 in the first few months of 2026. The stock at one point was up to 210 levels. That's also come back towards 170 mark or slightly below those levels. So even SAIL at 20% correction, I think is very attractive. So I think if I have to take a trade, these could be the top three names which looks interesting from the middle pack. Okay, Kunal, we spoke about IT, Reliance. That's also one of the stocks which has been very active. It's it's gained in the last 1 month as well. How do you look at if you're going to see a push to 24,500, you need to have the Reliance, the banking and the IT to play a part there.
Yeah, but Reliance is not participating. The fact is that when you look at this from not just over the last, I think 3 months, 6 months, but over the spectrum of the last, I think 2-3 years also, X the the Geo. I think even if you look at the price moves for Reliance, we've been stuck at 1300 points, 1300 level for Reliance Industries, plus minus 200 points for the stock price broadly over the last 4-5 years, 2020 to 23 onwards for the stock price. So that tells you that I think we've come back towards a neutral point for the stock price, or a pivot range for the stock, where the stock has been hanging around to this level plus minus 200 points for Reliance Industries, but no major price trend. We've seen many a times. In fact, I've seen this statistically in terms of data also, that many a times when there have been big uptrends into the stock, into the benchmark indices, there have been many cases where Reliance has been a little bit more flattish in the first half. It's just that when the market gets into a bit of an extreme, or the benchmark indices go into an extreme rally, that's where Reliance tends to participate in the second half. So since the fact that the Nifty itself is going through a very gradual kind of an uptrend, we are expecting Reliance to remain a little bit more flattish around the 1300 plus levels. But if the index gains a little bit more pace, then I would believe Reliance could try and come back after from this phase of consolidation.
Okay, that's the take coming in on Reliance. It's been stuck in that range-bound move for, I think, over 2 years now. 1304 is where the stock is, and this year itself, it's fallen about almost 17%. Let's take a very quick break on that note. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion with our market experts.
Welcome back. The other set of stocks which were complete outperformers last week were the realty pack. I mean, 8% move in a single week. Even when I'm looking at it over the last maybe 3 months odd, we've seen a very strong move from the real estate pack. We've seen nearly 40% returns on the benchmark itself. Now, Rahul, coming to you, how do you look at realty now, given the kind of rally we've seen? Is too much built into the price? Would you be cautious? Should you continue to go long? Is it going to be a blockbuster year? What's your sense?
I think if we look at the larger players, the market shares is moving to the larger players, and that's what is happening in the entire real estate markets. So large player in the most of the select packs, I think, should do well and continue to do well. And I think we saw a decent correction in the realty stocks in the last 1 year after a very good, robust performance in last 2 years, if you look at it. So my sense, I think real estate stocks, after us stepping down, and we've seen some kind of comeback in a lot of names, but so now one need to be, to play this entire rally, need to be a stock-specific approach rather than the entire sector approach. So we still feel the select pockets names like large players like Luda will be the key beneficiaries, Godrej will be the key beneficiaries. DLF on the NCR pack will be the key beneficiaries. So I think one would remain, it should remain in those large names. And I think a couple of them have moved up, and I think there could be the returns could be very static in those purposes. So I think these 3 players remains the top bets in our entire real estate as a theme.
Kunal, let me come to you. 2 questions on real estate. One is, give us a take on Oberoi, give us a take on Sobha. Sobha came out with their update. Oberoi spoke about how their Delhi project or Gurgaon project, 360 North, has actually garnered very strong interest, 8,000 crore plus in terms of bookings, gross bookings that they've received. Give us a sense of these 2 on charts first.
So, first of all, the sector entirely looks very attractive, even after a 20-25% uptick for many of these names. Sobha specifically, I think the stock has recovered from 1150 levels end of March towards 1440 mark. And the stock is yet to confirm a swing breakout on the closing basis on the weekly closing charts. But I believe that with the momentum what the entire real estate sector has been going through, I think it could just be a matter of time that the stock could come out of this breakout zone above 1440 levels. I would sense looks attractive above 1480 mark, which is the breakout point for Sobha. So for traders who are looking at a fresh buy, I would suggest just about wait for another 30-40 points on the upside to be taken out, and that's where the stock would confirm a breakout on swing resistances for itself. Oberoi Realty, on the other hand, I think if I'm not wrong, had a 3rd or 4th consecutive day of a 2%, 3% up move in the last week, and the stock closed at a multi-week high, trading at 1930 levels. It's very close now towards breaking the 2024 or the life highs of 2020 for Oberoi Realty. So that's one of the major stocks which has been looking very strong on the charts. I would sense that in this leg of price uptrend, there could be many names on the real estate pack which could try and challenge their lifetime high levels or even try and surpass about those zones.
And just in terms of, I know DLF is one of your favorites within the realty pack. Any other names that you can give us in terms of stocks which are looking attractive? And just given the kind of move we've seen, would you therefore be a little more cautious, or do you believe that charts still look extremely good?
So charts are still looking very good. What I mean to say is that we are now looking at a much more bigger trend evolving for the real estate names. Because, even though, of course, for the ones who've looked at this as a trading rally, and they would probably have encashed at the first 10, 15% on the up move for these stocks, they would be tempted to try and book profits into these names. But then I would sense that what we are looking as a recovery for many of the real estate stocks is a huge recovery. I was looking at the charts, for example, on the quarterly basis for many of the real estate names, and we are looking at a point where there are so many stocks which are forming a bullish hammer pattern after almost 4-5 quarters of a major underperformance. So you're not just looking at a 1 month or a 1 week revival for these real estate stocks. You're looking at a possibility that this revival could translate to at least another 2 to 3 quarters for many of these names. From the other stocks, from the pack, I would sense that even Prestige is the one which starts to look attractive. Godrej Properties has been holding on to that 1950, inching towards that 2000 mark as a breakout. That's another name to look out for. There are also very strong evidences on the charts that Macrotech Developers, or Lodha, which has been a sort of an underperformer in the real estate pack, that stock has also made a good comeback. It's crossed above its long-term moving averages, so that also makes the prospects quite attractive over the near term.
And that, of course, given that Prestige Estates is looking to acquire a 50% stake in Advent Convention for about almost 504 odd crore rupees. So a sizable one at that for them. In the meantime, just looking at the market texture, and while Friday was all about that IT comeback only getting stronger, Rahul, we've got TCS reporting its numbers this week. How critical do you think is going to be the earnings this time? More importantly, of course, what is it that you're hoping to hear from the commentary? And do you think, once again, as has been the case in many a quarters over the years, wherein IT always turns out to be a, sort of buy on rumor, sell on news kind of a story around its earnings?
I think a lot of noise and a lot of underperformance by the IT names we've seen in last year and a half. And I think obviously which is the reflection of earnings which has been deteriorated, and with a minimum growth, maybe 2-3% growth in most of the large names. So, and that is what it has reflected. And a lot of companies in the large names are trading at 12-13 times earnings with 4% dividend yield. So I think majority of things have been priced in terms of the negativity which we hear in the markets. But coming back, I think still post Accenture's core guidance, I think we've seen that. I think post that we've seen us again series round of sell-off in the IT names. So my sense, I think there could be the stocks that can still languish at this levels. Numbers per se, important to see the commentary and outlook and how the AI transformation can look into a lot of names into the IT pack. And importantly, coming back to TCS, I think looks like there could be a margin decline, and because due to the wage hikes, we could see some kind of pressure in it. And I think guidance for the last quarter, what they've given, I think should remain a flattish or a percent plus minus. So I don't see, I think, major action coming up in the IT names in spite of the series of sell-off in the sector.
The other big update coming in from the Defence Acquisition Council, which has cleared 52,000 crore worth of defence proposals. 6 systems cleared for the Army, 3 for the Navy. There's also Air Force. You'll see stocks like a BEL, of course, a BDL, HAL among the frontline names. But then you've got some of the other names as well, as Solar Industries, Data Patterns, and Astra Micro, and MTAR. We'll see how some of those are reacting. But Rahul, within defense, what are your favorites?
So I think obviously the large names like BEL, which has outperformed, I think that continues to remain to our top bets. But I think the defense as a sector, I think needs to have a good allocation in the portfolio. I think due to the geopolitical stress we've seen in last 2 years, I think post that investors have started putting into their portfolio. But I think still it's an underowned. Preferred bet BEL, followed by HAL, Mazagon, and I think BDL. These are the top bets, what we like in the entire defense spec.
Okay, the other big news over the weekend is the US Department of Justice has strongly defended its decision to drop the criminal case against Gautam Adani and 7 others, telling a federal court that the prosecution should never have been pursued in the first place. It argued that the case was legally weak and largely centered in India and no longer matched the Trump administration's enforcement priorities. In fact, my colleague Anurag Joshi joins in with more details on the same.
The US Department of Justice has defended a decision to abandon a criminal case against billionaire Gautam Adani. The department told a federal judge that the prosecution in the case was flawed and it was reacting to dropping criminal charges against Gautam Adani and 7 others. The DOJ said that the case should have been dropped a year ago and never should have been brought in the first place. The DOJ said in the filing that the court had only a limited role in reviewing its decision to dismiss the charges with prejudice. The US District Court Judge Garofis asked the DOJ to explain why it was seeking to permanently dismiss the indictment. Now, the case goes back to 2024 when the DOJ under the Biden administration indicted Adani and others, and the charges alleged a scheme to bribe Indian government officials $250 million and allegedly lie to investors. And this was allegedly happening around the same time when Adani Green Energy raised around $175 million from the US investors. The DOJ cited 6 key reasons for dropping charges. These included alleged conduct was overwhelmingly centered in India. The authorities investigated the allegations and they have found no actionable misconduct, and the investors suffered no financial losses.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Anurag. In fact, we also caught up with experts and lawyers. We had Benjamin Gianforti and Adam Goldberg, who explained that the DOJ decision actually means and what it actually entails and the way forward for the Adani Group. Listen in.
So that's what I would expect. Obviously, the Department of Justice has asked for this indictment to be dismissed. The Judge Garofis in the Eastern District of New York has asked the Department of Justice for some additional information so we can get comfortable that this dismissal is appropriate. The Justice Department has now provided that information in the letter that was filed on July 4th. And so I would anticipate that the judge would dismiss the case at this point, but it's a little hard to predict exactly what the judge will do. When an indictment is dismissed with prejudice, what that means is that the Department of Justice cannot bring those charges again against those people. So what this means is that the indictment, as it currently stands, it hasn't been dismissed yet, is just a series of allegations. So nothing has been proven, and nothing would have been proven in any criminal case until either a defendant pleads guilty or there is a trial and the defendant is either found guilty by a jury or is found not guilty. So by dismissing this indictment, that removes all of these allegations, and Mr. Adani and the other defendants in the indictment will no longer be facing criminal charges in the United States.
So the DOJ actually came at it somewhat differently. They were explaining to the judge why they wished to stop the prosecution, and in doing so laid out a number of bases in some significant detail as to why they felt the prosecution shouldn't move forward, both with respect to the lack of evidence and with respect to the lack of jurisdiction. So what it highlights is that this administration has a different set of priorities than the prior administration. But at the same time, they took a look at the evidence that was there. They found that there wasn't sufficient information, sufficient evidence to move forward, and they did not want to prosecute. And ultimately, the judge had very little discretion to do anything about that. In the United States, the Department of Justice, which represents the executive branch, it's part of the executive branch, it's part of the branch that the president is the head of, has the authority to decide who it wants to prosecute and who it doesn't want to prosecute, and they decided they did not want to move forward on this case.
All right, so that's that. But let me quickly go across to Rahul. Rahul, some of the banking numbers came out, and financials will obviously be in focus this morning. How should one look at who the outperformers will be based on the numbers that have come in? Should we look at the current growth numbers? Should we look at LDR? What's the right way to kind of think of this?
So I think if we look at, I think most of the large private banks have underperformed last couple of years, and I think looking at where the momentum which is picking up and plus the quarterly updates, I think risk versus supports of the last names. If you look at historical last 10-year P averages, they're trading at a discount of 20% and most of the names, and in some cases 30%. So I feel that large names in banks, I think, which have come up. So I think IDFC, a decent performance which has come up. Kotak also has got a decent performance which they've come up. So, in a large names, I think ICICI also remains our top back. So I think all these three large players one should look at in the private sector banks to play in terms of the financial sector as a whole is poised for it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rahul, for coming in and giving us that perspective.
My pleasure.